This is Kurt from Classic ATS, and today we're going to have a quick overlook at our engine test stand. This is pretty much what we use to test carburetors or test complete engines after we've done work on those engines. We got a request from a viewer that they'd like to see a little bit more of the engine stand and kind of know a little bit more about it. So this is going to be short and sweet and kind of to the point, just what we need, what's on it, why it's there, and if you ever wanted to build one of these yourself, pretty much how to do that. So the way this stand works for us is we have just a 2-inch tube stand, and I just kind of built it based on what I wanted out of it. I wanted to be able to get access into different points. For my engine mount, I'm using a 911 transmission housing. I'm doing that because there is a surplus of 914 transaxles. It's easy to find them cheap. They're not worth a lot of money, and it makes for a quick hookup. There's nothing in here, no gears. This is all empty. All it's doing is giving me somewhere to bolt a starter motor to and bolt the engine to. At the back, up in here, I've just got a piece of standard aluminum plate. It's bolted to my engine stand, and then I bolt the back of the transmission through holes right here. So pretty straightforward, easy to hook up, nothing super complicated. When it comes to gauging, these are gauges that I had just in my stock. They're old gauges, haven't been rebuilt, just tested, made sure they worked. Once again, just bare bones minimum. Things that I want to see. I want to see my oil temp, I want to see pressure, tack. Got a generator light, oil pressure light, and then over here I'm only really using this gauge for my oil tank. That is hooked up so I know how much oil I've got in the tank, and of course tachometer that I already mentioned. As far as wiring controls, it's pretty straightforward, pretty basic. So on the back I've got 3 relays. I'm controlling my starter motor, my fuel pump, and my main ignition through relays, a small fuse panel, and then I've just got 2 switches. One's used for ignition and the other one for fuel, and a start button so I can run the starter motor. So pretty straightforward stuff. So I run 2 switches here, one for ignition and one for fuel. This is because sometimes I want to just run my fuel pumps and I don't need my ignition on, so there's no point having the engine live with ignition when all I need to do is fill up a carburetor full of fuel, or if it's a CIS motor or another type of injection motor and I just need to check fuel pressures, I've separated that out. So I can control each one of those functions individually. Then I've got our reminder, open our oil lines, because we have taps here, and these allow us to shut off the oil when we're not using this engine or we're changing engines. And we also learn the hard way that if you start the engine and run it and the oil tap is closed, you're looking at a big mess very shortly. This is our oil tank setup. This actually came out of a customer's car that was leaking. We replaced it probably 20 plus years ago. I hung on to it, spent the time to solder it up. It was leaking right out of the main fill right here, but not to a point where I would have felt comfortable putting it back in a customer's car. On the engine stand, if it leaks, I can see it, not a big deal, we can take care of it. So it works the same as it does in your same car. Most important things here is this bottom pipe level here has to be the same height as your intake pipe level. So when you set those up and if you want to run an engine on a stand, you want to make sure that your oil supply, and you can use a universal oil tank, you don't have to use a 911 one. You want to make sure that the pickup tube heights are the same. These need to be able to flow under gravity feed and be at the same height. That's kind of important for that. Moving around on the front, I have 2 support arms, and the support arms are designed to be removable. We're bolted with a single bolt. All of our load is sitting down on top of our actual frame, and this is what is supporting our engine front weight here. And this way what we can do is when I put the engine on, I take these arms off, slide it in with my jack it up, put it on the transmission side, then bring in my front support arms, and that secures the engine. So this is our electrical control panel, and this is actually using a twin plug panel. Normally I'll have a 3-pin and a 6-pin box on here. Right now they're off just because I was using them on different applications. I've got a regulator here, so if I'm running an engine that still does not have an internally regulated alternator, I can hook up and make sure that's working properly. One quick change, I did actually add this coil mount bracket. The 65 through 69 cars that ran a standard ignition system, I needed somewhere to mount my coil. Normally on those cars the coil was mounted on this control panel, but when I have CDI boxes here I don't have room for it. So I just kind of drilled and tapped it right here. That gave me easy access. It's secure, it's grounded, and I can hook up everything. This harness here is actually an adapter harness. I've got a standard 14-pin plug that you would find in the car. You'll notice I'm not using all the pins. That's because we don't have heater fans or anything else unnecessary. All I've got is my oil pressure, temperature, starter lines. But on a 69 or an earlier engine, they used a different wiring harness hookup. So this wiring harness is my universal harness that I would use on early cars. If it's a later from 70 and on, it's designed to just plug straight in there and I can hook up, have all my gauge functions. Back here I've got my fuel tank with a shutoff valve. I'm running a CIS fuel injection pump. I did have a couple of carbureted pumps on there, but I've kind of changed how I'm doing that. When I run a carbureted engine, I just hook up a return line. You can see right here, I've been running carburetors, and I let any fuel divert back. My pressures are good, I'm not having any issues. So this pump here, I'm actually going to take off. I'm no longer going to be using it. We've got our battery that's down here on our frame. And the post that's sticking up, we used to have a different way of supporting the transaxle. It didn't quite work out the way I wanted, so I actually cut it off. I need to make some other changes because I want to make that to where it will accept the drip pan. So if I'm doing an engine that I have here that is maybe not rebuilt and is a little bit of a leaker, I can put a drip pan underneath it to catch anything that's coming out. So overall, it's been a work in progress. I mean, I've added stuff and changed stuff as I've gone along, as kind of needed. The different combination of engines going on, oil pipe locations, different carburetor setups has changed kind of the way that things have needed to be hooked up. So it has been a long time coming to kind of get to where it's at. Well, that about wraps it up for this. I'd like to say thanks for watching. Please check out our other videos and like or subscribe, or both, ideally. And we'll catch you on the next video.